Hey, it's Tburrier from Tburrier.com. Do you at all struggle with worry? In today's world, I would be shocked if you don't a little bit. But, as someone who comes from a long line of worriers, I've developed a couple of, let's call them strategies, that may be helpful for you, some things to think about. And so I'm going to share them with you briefly here in this quick video. But the bottom line is, again, I've struggled with worry much of my life. My mom was like an unbelievable worrier. It was one of her greatest skills. And it's just part of her mother was like that. And it's just one of these things. I've never looked it up. I don't know if it's genetic. But all I know is that I had very much a very fear-based mentality, especially as a younger person. And that translated into worry constantly. And so if you think about worry, it is a massive, massive life waster. And here's what I mean by that. So first worry, what is worry? I didn't look it up definition-wise, but if you think about it, right, it's fear, right? It's perseverating on things that may happen in the future. It's kind of negative prayer. It's visualizing the worst case, right? It's taking something that's not in existence right now and bringing it into your current state of affairs, essentially. Because if it's dominating your thought life and your emotional life, then it may as well be happening because it's having an impact on you. And it will increase your stress. It destroys creativity. You're not creative and worrisome at the same time. It definitely destroys your joy. It will destroy your ability to focus, and it will make you sick. It'll physically make you sick over time. And to me, it's a massive, massive time waster. That doesn't make it easier to just turn off. However, again, I've developed a really simple little that I use that may be helpful for you. So focusing on the time waste, that's what made me come to this, because I'm a freak about using time well, because time is your life currency. And anytime you waste it, you're wasting your life. And that's just too precious because we don't know how much of it we get. So what to do? So the first thing, and it's an emotional intelligence thing. The first thing you do is just feel it. Right? Feel it, and you know what it is, but you want to make sure that's what it is, right? It could be something else that's a feeling, and you're attaching it to worry, and maybe that's not even what it is. But take a minute and feel it, and then go, okay, I'm worried about something, and then work on identifying. Get curious, right? Get curious. What is the thing I'm specifically worrying about? That's the thing. It's usually not the surface thing, right? It's usually not the surface thing that this thing's happening over here. No, that's the beginning. What we worry about as human beings typically is the deeper impact of what that thing means. That's what we tend to worry about, because that's how we're wired, right? So we're going to perseverate from the perspective of, how could this ruin my life? I mean, that's sort of how it works. Or how could it ruin the life of someone else, right? Based on someone we love, for example. So get curious as to what it really is. And then the next step is figure out, can you control it? Can you control and have any influence over the thing that you're worrying about? Right? Because this is the big point here. Because if you're gonna be thinking about it and be emotional about it, you want to be productively working your way through a process. So look at it from the perspective, I can do something about it, I can control something relative to it, or I cannot control anything relative to it. All right? So once you get clarity on that, and it won't take you long to get clarity, and the reality is we don't control much that happens in the future. We might think we do, but we don't. But just setting that aside and thinking about it in concrete terms right now, if you don't have any control, then that is helpful, because then you can step back and go, okay, here's the reality. I'm completely wasting my time and energy right now because I don't have any control, and yet I'm spending my emotional energy, which is occupying me, on something I have no control over, which means it's limiting what else I can be doing, not to mention it's taking joy in the moment I'm in right now, where the thing hasn't actually happened yet. Right? That's the point I made earlier. When we're worrying, we're allowing something that hasn't happened to affect us in some measure as if it had, right? Certainly not to the degree as if it had, but in some measure as if it had. So a couple things you can do. One is do something to prep for the worst case for yourself. That's one thing you can do. I choose a different path. I choose what I call recreational development. And so what do I mean by that is I go do something that I enjoy doing that has a positive impact on me. And that way, in the moment, I'm doing something that is blowing off steam, relieving stress, allowing me to get centered, allowing me to calm myself a little bit, and that I enjoy. And so, yeah, it may be at the beginning, it might be a little tough for you. Nothing I ever teach is microwavable, by the way, because there isn't anything of value that's microwavable. You have to work at stuff. But man, this concept, it's what I call a Q2 concept. I teach it deeply in when I'm teaching prioritization and time utilization. I mean, Q2 is what I teach to live in, and it's a fabulous way to live. But this is a concept where you are proactively doing something instead that is of benefit for you. Right? Recognizing that because of the fact that you're worrying, you can't do something else that, maybe, your focus isn't as well. So go do something that's really good for you, but also that you enjoy. And then that kind of covers many different birds. That's a whole different path and a whole deeper conversation, but it's an idea for you. Maybe you like walking your dogs, or, maybe you like playing ball of some sort, or maybe you like to kayak, or whatever it is, right? You go do this thing and enjoy your life, and recognize that if you're not enjoying your life, what's the point? Then what are you worried about anyway? Because you're not enjoying this life, so you're not going to enjoy it anyway when the thing happens that probably won't happen, because most of what we worry about actually doesn't happen. Statistically, that's true. And then the other thing, of course, is, can you control it? Is there something you can do to control it? So the minute you recognize that it's affecting you, and you've taken the time to get curious about it and think, can I control it? Now it's time to get curious about, what can you do? What can you do right now? What little step can you take right now that's part of solving it for yourself? What's the action you can do? That is such a different pathway to go down, because that's proactive. And when you ask your mind, what can you do? It'll start working at it. It'll say, well, you can do this, and you can do that, and you can do that, and you're in a different set of thinking. You automatically shifted your thinking. It's getting curious about what you can do will help move you through it. And again, this takes practice. This is as a genetic worrier who had a lot of practice as a young person and still has to deal with it all the time. I do the things I'm telling you because they work. And so it seems simple. It's not simple. You have to be purposeful about it. Otherwise, and matter of fact, you're in the middle of the worry moment. You're not being purposeful in that moment. You're too busy perseverating and freaking out and going through all the stuff and thinking about what it means and what you might lose and what it might cost you and how you might have to do this thing that you don't want to do. All the stuff that we do. I call it awfulizing. This works. Feel it. Get curious about it. Figure out whether you can control it or not, and move from there. All right. I hope that was helpful. If you need some training, visit Tburrier.com. I have tons of training content there. If you need some coaching for yourself or your organization, feel free to reach out to me. My email is below. And if you're trying to really get all your ducks in the right basket and have your life flowing in the right way, check out the book, 3 Circles Living. All right, take care.